uh, Dr. Arnold Gesell. He was born in 1880 and died in 1981 in Alma, Wisconsin. And he had a PhD in psychology and went to medical school at the age of 30 to further understand psychological progress. So he studies medicine, medical science, and next time he was interested to study the psychology and the psychological progress of human being, especially the child. And he is the founder of this Yale Clinic of Child Development, and the video clip that we have watched, that is taken from that Yale University lab, that means the video clip. And Dr. Arnold Gesell established that clinic for researching the development of a child, especially the mental development. The physical development we see, there is nothing to research in case of physical development. আমরা তো দেখতেই পাই যে একটা বাচ্চা বড় হয়, 1 বছরে এতটুকু বড় হয়, 2 বছরে হাঁটতে শেখে, 3 বছরে খাইতে শেখে, 4 বছরে ঝগড়া করতে শেখে, এগুলো তো আমরা physical development. But what type of mental development gonna happen in case of a child? That was the topic of Dr. Arnold Gesell, child development theory, psychological process. In the 50 years of his time at the Yale Clinic, he and his colleague developed behavior norms for children and tests to assess their level of behavior. So, norms of behavior, what type of behavior a child will show, a child will produce, in which age, 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. So, gradual development will be there. And in order to understand or assess the development, the psychological development of the child, Dr. Arnold Gesell researched in his clinic for 50 years, and he has commented a theory. That theory is called, this theory we are going to study today. So Gesell created a series of developmental tests in this concern, that is the psychological development of a child, that assess the readiness of a child in a school. So when you are supposed to go send your kids to school, that was the topic. In case of Bangladesh, in many schools they take students in 3.5 years, but in case of other school they get admission after 5 years. Okay? And some schools are very strict to their rules and regulation. That means within the 6, so যাদের জন্ম জানুয়ারির 1 তারিখ থেকে জুনের 30 তারিখ পর্যন্ত তারাই দরখাস্ত করতে হবে. So they are restricted. So Dr. Arnold Gesell's topic was that whether a child is ready for schooling or not, and he researched that in which age a child should send in a school. And these tests were studied with colleagues at the Yale Clinic of Child Development. One of these tests was the incomplete man. That means he named that title, the test. And this test was designed, investigated the maturity, capacity, individuality among children in the 1950 decades in order to test school readiness. So what type of mental development Dr. Arnold Gesell had been researching? He had been researching the maturity and the capacity of a child, whether the child has been mentally matured or not, whether the child has the mental ability or capability or not to go to school. And we have seen that video clip, that is in 1947. That means this research he did, Dr. Arnold Gesell did in 1950 decades. And in this theory, though this theory concerns the maturity and the mental capability, and for this reason this theory is called maturation theory. Maturation theory in SLA, or second language acquisition, whether a child is matured or capable or not. So there are some key terms in this theory, that is, through the research, Dr. Arnold Gesell said that আসলে maturation হঠাৎ করে আসবে না. Maturation, a process of a child development that is directed by gene in a fixed sequence. So terms when maturity will develop, we know আসলে আমাদের জিনের বংশ বৃদ্ধি হয় বলেই আমরা বড় হই, ঠিক আছে. So Dr. Arnold Gesell said two key terms. That means we get ready, the children get ready to school, the children get maturity for the cause of two reasons. One reason, that is the scientific reason we know, that is gene তো আমরা বুঝি, ঠিক আছে, কোষের বৃদ্ধির কারণেই আমরা বড় হই, ঠিক আছে. So number one, that he didn't deny that for the contribution of a gene a child develops. And the second one is that is sequence means one after another. In 6 months age, what would be the capacity of a child? In 1 year age, what would be the capacity of a child's mentality? In 2 years age, what would be the mentality of a child or a kid? And for this reason, that is the development or the maturity or the capacity of a child will be developed following a sequence, following a chronology. Chronology means a child, what is supposed to do in 1.5 years of age. That child may not do this or must not do this in his 6 months age. একটা বাচ্চা 1.5 বছর বয়সে তার যেটা করার কথা, সেই বাচ্চা কখনো সেটা 1 বছর বয়সে করতে পারবে না. সো 3 বছরের বাচ্চা যেটা করতে পারার কথা, সেটা কখনো 1 বছরের বাচ্চা করতে পারবে না. এবং এই জন্য 5 বছর পরে স্কুলে পাঠানোর কথা বলা হচ্ছে. হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু কিছু অতি উৎসাহী অনেকে মনে করেন যে না, যত আগে যাওয়া যায় তত ভালো, অনেকে 3 বছরে. সো Dr. Gesell, they said that the 5-year child that will have a different kind of maturity and capability, and a 3-year child will not have such kind of maturity and capability. And for this reason, Dr. Gesell said that actually child psychology and child body is developed for the contribution of gene, number one, and also their capability will be developed following a sequence, following a chronology. So if we study these kinds of child's development, then that would be helpful for any kinds of learning learned by a child, any kinds of learning learned by a learner, and that learner can be a child learner. And though it is related to psychology, and for this reason in case of second language acquisition, this maturation theory can be applied. Number 2, readiness. The ability to learn abstractly, okay, that means abstract noun. What are the abstract noun? যেটা ধরা ছোঁয়া যায় না, যেমন kindness, angry, I am angry, can you see my anger, and can you touch anybody's anger? So in which age a child will understand such kind of abstract quality? Okay, so whether the child will be able to understand kindness, will understand angry or other things. So abstract quality, he or she will be understand readiness. And to comprehend the purpose of one's work before mastering or learning the task. Before learning the task, whether a child can do an action or not, that is the concern of Gesell's theory. And also, third one, individuality. When a child will get individuality, you know, someone talks very much, someone starts quarreling with other kids, someone will remain silent always in a public gathering. কিছু বাচ্চা দেখা যাচ্ছে যে চুপ করে বসে আছে, কিছুই বলছে না. কিছু বাচ্চা ওকে ধাক্কা দিচ্ছে, ওর সাথে করছে, এর সাথে কথা করছে. কোনো বাচ্চা আবার অনেক বেশি কথা বলছে, যা পাচ্ছে সেটাই ধরছে। ওকে, সো this Dr. Gesell also asks the question, when individually will grow to a kid or a child. So individuality are behavior traits where the child has a sense of one's self. So he will be, in case of, there is an example, that is twin babies. In case of twin babies, they are identical twins, they are quite similar, their pattern বা অনেক কিছু মিল থাকে। Okay, so in case of Gesell's maturation theory, the third component is individuality. And what is the definition of individuality? Individuality will be dealing that someone's concerned about oneself. Maturity, behavior traits exhibited during a child's development. Capacity, behavior traits of adapting and learning from a child's social environment. Capacity, after observing other children, a child can have that capacity to do the same things. একজন বাচ্চাকে আরেকটা বাচ্চাকে হেল্প করতে দেখে, তখন অন্য একটা বাচ্চা যদি দেখে, তখন সেও চেষ্টা করে যে এরকম কোনো কাজ করতে। এবং সেটা সে কোভাবে দেখছে, যে সোশ্যাল এনভায়রনমেন্ট। কোনো বাচ্চাকে যদি কোনো জায়গায় নিয়ে যাওয়া হয়, যে একটা কেউ পড়ে গিয়েছে, কোনো আরেক বাচ্চা গিয়ে তাকে হেল্প করে, এবং এটা যদি অন্য আরেকটা বাচ্চা দেখে, তখন ওর মধ্যেও এই মেন্টালিটিটা গ্রো করে, the capacity to help others. And such kind of capacity the child will learn from the social behavior or social interaction, the social environment. Okay, so that is the capacity of in Gesell's theory. The maturation theory of language development, what is happening over there. Okay, and there is a relation. So we had been discussing the relation of the child development. So the biological maturation theory was developed by Arnold Gesell, and this theory states that language is a product of brain structure. We had been discussing that what is the linkages between maturation theory and SLA, second language acquisition. Because previously we know that, okay, we know that naturally we get our body developed for the contribution of our gene and also sequence, that is Gesell's term. But what is the relation between maturation theory and SLA? Okay, so Dr. Arnold Gesell said that language is a product of brain structure and functions affected by genetic and environmental influence. Genetic and environmental influence. Did we hear any kind of influence in our previous classes? In our previous class, in case of Watson, Pavlov and Skinner, মনে আছে উনি কি বলেছিলেন? Language learning is a part of our habit formation. That is the behaviorist theory of language learning. And he got that there are two kinds of habit formation, that is operant conditioning and classical conditioning. Classical conditioning by Pavlov and operant conditioning by. So Watson, Pavlov and Skinner, they talked about their behavior. That means language learning is a part of behavior. But next time Chomsky, he said that no, there is no part of behavior. Actually language learning is the capacity of human brain. Human brain, we have our LAD, language acquisition device, and we have UG, universal grammar, in our brain that is installed. কম্পিউটারে কিছু যেমন হার্ড মেমোরিতে হার্ড ডিস্কে দিয়ে দেওয়া থাকে, সেরকম চমস্কি বলেছেন যে আসলে আমাদের ব্রেনের মধ্যে এলইডি এবং আরেকটা সফটওয়্যার দেওয়া আছে, সেই সফটওয়্যারটার নাম হলো ইউজি, ইউনিভার্সাল গ্রামার। And for this reason we learn language, so there is no contribution of habit formation. আমরা মা যতই ইনিয়ে বিনিয়ে বাচ্চার সাথে কথা বলি, চমস্কি এটাকে কোনো গুরুত্বই দেননি। উনি গুরুত্ব দিয়েছেন কি, যে মানুষের ব্রেনের মধ্যে এমন একটা যন্ত্র বসানো আছে, এই কারণে তারা সেই ভাষাটা শিখতে পারে। But Dr. Arnold Gesell, he said that actually we learn language based on the function of our brain, and that function, that structure and the function is structured affected by the genetic. That means contribution of brain, just like the contribution of Noam Chomsky's idea, that is contribution of brain. Noam Chomsky discarded the idea of radical behaviorism. Noam Chomsky radical behaviorism-এর আইডিয়াটা ত্যাগ করে সে বলছে যে না, এই ব্যবহারের কোনো বালাই নাই এখানে। ভাষা আমরা শিখি আমাদের ব্রেনের কারণে। এলইডি এবং দুটো টার্ম উনি বললেন, এলইডি অ্যান্ড ইউসি। ওকে, অ্যান্ড behaviorist theory, actually behaviorist theory is the first theory in case of second language acquisition or learning, and from that theory we have got many methods, that is especially the audiolingualism, that is habit formation. In case of audiolingualism we see that the habit will form by repetition and drill. Okay, but here Dr. Gesell said that actually language is a product of brain, just quite similar with Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky also said actually the surface structure. So Noam Chomsky was very much interested with the structure of a language. Okay, so the brain structure here, Dr. Arnold Gesell said, the brain structure and the functions affected by the genetic and the environmental influences. That means Dr. Arnold Gesell combines the both theory. That means we have the contribution of our brain, that means the genetic formation, language learning, and also we have the environmental influence, just like the stimulus in behaviorist theory. Okay, so the maturation theory can combine the both aspects, that is the environment is very important and also the human brain is important, which play a primary role in supporting language acquisition. So we can't discard one. আমরা কোনোটাই বাদ দিতে পারবো না, কোনোটার কন্ট্রিবিউশনও বাদ দিতে পারবো না। আমরা যদি এরকম করি, if you make an analogy that yes, according to Noam Chomsky, that language learning is nothing but the activity of our brain, এটাকে আমরা গ্রান্টেড ধরে নিলাম। যদি তাই করি তাহলে বাচ্চার সাথে আমরা কোনো কথাই বলবো না, তার সাথে কোনো জায়গায় তাকে নিয়েও যাব না, কারণ তার তো ব্রেন আছে। বাট ইন ওয়ান টাইম Noam Chomsky said that actually ব্রেন থাকলেও এই ব্রেনটাকে ইউজিটাকে অ্যাক্টিভেট করা হতে পারে ইনপুট নিয়ে উনি কথা বলেছেন, and input will be activating just like the trigger. So Dr. Arnold Gesell's theory, maturation theory, its second language learning, is that language learning is a form of our brain, and that brain structure and function that is also will have the influence from our genetic, that means human brain, and also the influence of the environmental stimulus or environmental situations in supporting language acquisition. So why we are reading this theory? We are reading this theory that in case of learning second language or third language or foreign language or any kind of language, we have to consider that not only the environment but also the brain is important. Okay, so in case of second language acquisition, and this research influenced what we know about the developmental milestone. Key principles of Gesell maturation theory: children develop through similar and predictable sequence. Similar and predictable sequence. Predictable means similar means কি যে বাংলাদেশে প্রতিদিন কত শিশু জন্মগ্রহণ করে? হ্যাঁ, তা জানি না, তবে করোনার সময় এরকম সংবাদ পাওয়া গিয়েছিল যে ন্যাচারালি বাংলাদেশে প্রতিদিন 2 থেকে 2,500 মানুষ মারা যায়, মানে বৃদ্ধ হয়ে, বয়স হয়ে, অ্যান্ড জন্মগ্রহণ করে 3,500। তার মানে একদিনে যদি 3,500 শিশু জন্মগ্রহণ করে বাংলাদেশে, ডক্টর গ্যাজেল বলছে যে এই যে শিশুগুলো, এই 3,500 শিশু বাংলাদেশে না, বিশ্বে ধরলাম 800 কোটি মানুষের কত শিশু জন্মগ্রহণ করে। বিভিন্ন দেশে জন্মহার কম, সেক্ষেত্রে অ্যাপ্রক্সিমেটলি ধরতে পারি আমরা 1 লাখ বা 2 লাখ বা 5 লাখ শিশু জন্মগ্রহণ করে একদিনে পৃথিবীতে। ডক্টর আর্নল্ড গেজেল says that this child's development will be equal, similar to all the babies. তো বললেন যে স্যার, আজকে যারা জন্মগ্রহণ করেছে তাদের জন্য সিমিলার হবে, আগামীকাল যারা জন্মগ্রহণ করেছে তাদের জন্য সিমিলার হবে না? ইয়েস, তাদের জন্য সিমিলার হবে। প্রত্যেক বেবিদের জন্য উনি বলছেন, কে বলছেন? ডক্টর আর্নল্ড গ্যাজেলস, দ্যাট ইজ চিলড্রেন ডেভেলপমেন্ট থ্রু সিমিলারলি দে উইল ডেভেলপ দেয়ার ফিজিক অ্যান্ড অলসো দেয়ার মেন্টালিটি অ্যান্ড দ্য মেন্টাল ক্যাপাবিলিটি। কোন ক্যাপাবিলিটির কথাগুলো যেগুলো বলছেন? অ্যাবস্ট্রাক্ট আইডিয়া, ability, capability, individuality, that will grow for to a child in a similar way. তার মানে উনি 50 বছর যে গবেষণা করেছেন, 50 বছর গবেষণা করে উনি দেখিয়েছেন যে কত বছর বয়সে একটা বাচ্চার মধ্যে ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালিটি গ্রো করবে, কত বছর বাচ্চার মধ্যে একটা বাচ্চার ক্যাপাসিটি গ্রো করবে, কত বছর বয়সে একটা বাচ্চা অ্যাবস্ট্রাক্ট গ্রো মানে বুঝতে পারবে। Okay, so he said that in case of every child of this world, the development, that means the psychological development will be similar. Number one. And number two, the predictable sequence. Predictable sequence means what is gonna happen after what. কার পরে কি হতে যাচ্ছে, 6 বছর বয়সে কি হবে এটা উনি বলে দিয়েছেন, 7 বছর বয়সে কি হবে ওটা উনি বলে দিয়েছেন, আবার 8 বছর বয়সে কি হবে এটা উনি বলে দিয়েছেন। So according to his research, what's gonna happen in a 7 years baby, that is told in Arnold Gesell maturation theory. Okay, so every child develops his or her mentality similarly and in a predictable sequence. Predictable sequence এর অর্থ কি, যে আমরা বলে দিতে পারি। প্রেডিক্ট করা মানে কি, ভবিষ্যৎ বলে দেওয়া, যে আমি বলতে পারি যে এই বছর বয়সে বাচ্চারা এটা করবে। However, Gesell noticed that they didn't so at their own page and suggested his development starts to occur before the child's birth. Okay, so and also Gesell also put that the development, psychological development might start from before birth. That means from the embryo, জন্মের আগে থেকে, ভ্রূণ অবস্থা থেকে। What are the stages of maturation theory? Gesell's cycles of development are divided into 6 well-defined stages, which are repeated throughout our life. One cycle includes the following steps: smooth, breakup, sorting out, inwarding, expansion, neurotic, fitting together. So these are the some stages of mental development. Okay, that means sometimes it will develop smoothly, sometimes it can sort out means that is that the thing we have watched in the video clip, that means a child can fix the circle and the cube and the other things, যে একটা শেপ দেওয়া ছিল, যে কিছু কিছু চাইল্ড সেটা সর্ট করে সেখানে বসাতে পারছে। কোন বাচ্চা এই সর্টিং আউট অ্যাবিলিটি কোন বয়সে হবে। ইনওয়ার্ডিজাইং, দ্যাট মিনস কোনো কিছু নিজের দিকে নেওয়া বা করা বা ব্যাখ্যা করা। এক্সপানশন, কোনো কিছু বর্ধিত করে কোনো কিছু করা। নিউরোটিক ফিটিং টুগেদার, দ্যাট ইজ দ্য সাইকোলজিক্যাল fitness to say or do some works, neurological fitting. Okay, so these are the developments, psychological steps. So from his foundings, Gesell concluded that mental and psychological development in infants, children and adolescents are comparable and parallel orderly progresses. So first time he said that maturation theory happens with the contribution of gene and also sequence. Second time he said that language learning can be the contribution of structure and environmental influence. And here he said that actually mental and physical development in infants, children, infant থেকে একটু বড় হলে তাদেরকে বলা হচ্ছে কি চিলড্রেন, আর তারপরে কি অ্যাডোলেসেন্ট মানে কি কৈশোর, মানে 13 টিনেজারদের বলা হচ্ছে অ্যাডোলেসেন্ট, are comparable and parallel orderly processes. So the child psychological development lab was Dr. Gesell's foundation. এই শিশুদের পরীক্ষা করে উনি সবশেষে বললেন যে ইয়েস, বাচ্চার বয়স শিশুরা এবং অ্যাডোলেসেন্টরা সবাই লার্নিংয়ের ক্ষেত্রে এই একই প্রসেসটা ফলো করে, একইভাবে তারা কোনো ভাষা শেখে, কোনো কিছু শেখে। ওকে, সো অ্যাডোলেসেন্ট are comparable and parallel orderly processes, and the result of his research were utilized in creating the Gesell development schedule, which can be used with children between 4 weeks to 6 years of age. Between 4 weeks to 6 years. That means the strategy after 4 weeks, একটা বাচ্চার জন্মগ্রহণের 1 মাস পরে তার মধ্যে কি ডেভেলপমেন্ট হয় এবং 6 বছর পর্যন্ত এই বাচ্চার যে ডেভেলপমেন্টগুলো হয় সেই ডেভেলপমেন্টগুলো নিয়েই উনি কথা বলেছেন। Okay, so what are the 6 perspectives of child development? we have considered 6 major perspectives on development in maturation theory. That is psychodynamics, behavioral, cognitive, humanistic, contextual, and evolutionary last development. So psychodynamic, that means the relation between physics and body. তারা শরীর দিয়ে যেটা করতে চাচ্ছে সেটা তারা করতে পারছে কিনা, behavioral pattern, and also cognitive development, that means the level of understanding, humanistic, that means whether the child will be quarreling with other or not, where the child will be very much sympathetic to other child, কোনো বাচ্চা পড়ে গেলে তাকে সান্ত্বনা দিচ্ছে কিনা, contextual, in some context what he is supposed to do, কেউ প্রথম কোনো জায়গায় আমরা একটা বাচ্চা দেখছিলাম যে জানলা দিয়ে বের হচ্ছে, so that idea is contextual, okay, so এই কনটেক্সটে দরজা বন্ধ, কি করতে হবে, এই কনটেক্সটে what should be done, that would be applied by the child. And also evolutionary, that means imaginative power, that you will be writing something, you will be doing something very surprising, very fantastic thing that is not supposed to be done by a child. একটা শিশুর পক্ষে করা সেটাও এই শিশুরা করতে পারে, okay. So this principle that suggests that children achieve their individuality by becoming progressively differentiated from their fellows and with every new maturation change and accompanying environmental experiences. Okay, so in such a way the acquisition theory will go on. Okay, so there are some examples. A child acquires the ability to ride a bicycle as it learns strength, balance, and coordination. Okay, so সবাই কারা বাইসাইকেল চালাতে পারে, অনেকে পারে, আবার অনেকে পারে না। তাহলে কি বাইকে থাকাতে কয়টা জিনিস লাগে? এই কয়টা জিনিস লাগে। সবার শরীরে শক্তি আছে, কিন্তু শক্তি থাকলে বাইসাইকেল চালানো যায় না। ব্যালেন্স লাগে এবং কি লাগে? কোঅর্ডিনেশন লাগে। ওকে, so that is the example of maturation. So a child will be dealing with such kind of maturation theory. Okay, so the maturation theory, characteristics of maturation theory, sum of gene effect. So what would be the cause of our ability or capability? That is the sum of gene effect. Gene means কোষের বৃদ্ধির কারণে। Maturation is the net sum of the gene effect operating in self-limiting life circle. Automatic process, growth and development, completion of growth, modification from within, modification, that means inward কোনো কিছু ভিতরে নেওয়া, বুঝতে পারা, cognitive development এর মতো। Okay, condition of meaning, factors of maturation essential for learning skill. So these are there are 4 types of maturity. Naturally, in case of child, we see that is 4 kinds of maturity. Physical maturity that we can observe very quickly. When I say physical maturity, I am not referring to the normal aging progress of our body, but the fact that one day we realize that if our physical health is not in top shape, nothing else is worth much in life. So physical ability, and after the physical ability comes the mental ability. That is the term emotional ability, and also the spiritual ability. Okay, so in that Gesell's theory, that this is Gesell, that we have talked about Arnold Gesell, that is Arnold Lucius Gesell ছিলেন একজন মার্কিন মনোবিজ্ঞানী, যেটা আমরা কথা বলেছি, ইয়েল বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে নিয়ে গবেষণা করেছেন। Erich Hans Lenbart was also a linguist and neurologist who pioneered ideas on language acquisition and cognitive psychology, particularly in terms of concept of innateness. So another psychologist, he talked about this, and he was born in Germany. Okay, so we will not be talking about that. That is not relating to our today's topic. Okay, and so child development. Okay, so there are some positive side of this maturation theory, that is This theory focused on the physical and mental development of a child. That is the positive side of this maturation theory. He suggested that the children will grow through the same stage of development, that we have said that all children of this world will be growing in the same way, sequence, following a sequence and structure and the predictable sequence, and in the same sequence, but each child will go through the stage at their own rate, as their own rate. On rate means কি, যদি আপনি 3 বছরের বাচ্চার কাছে চিন্তা করে যে ও অনেক বেশি কিছু করবে, সেটা সে করতে পারবে না. ওকে, so it would be depending on his own age. And Gesell theory is known as maturational developmental theory. So this theory can also be called maturation theory, but there are some criticism against this. Everything will be of within the criticism. There will have some positive side and also some negative side. That we had in case of behaviorism, in case of non-Chomsky's innatism, and also this theory will have some negative sides. The modern critic of Gesell point out that he put too much emphasis on maturation and not enough on environmental factors such as learning. But in one case he also talked about the both items. He said environmental influence, but many critics talked about that he has given importance about the maturation. He didn't put much emphasis for the environmental influences for creating a child's capability or ability. And criticism also includes that his environmental stage imply too much informity, as if all children go through the stages at the same age. Okay, so this is Dr. Arnold's maturation theory in second language acquisition. Dr. Arnold Gesell is an American psychologist. He developed his theory, and there are two terms in language learning theory. That is, every child will develop its mental development following a sequence, and also for the contribution of gene. But in case of second language learning, he also said that children, kids, and also adolescents, they can develop their mentality, ability, individuality following a sequence and following a predictable sequence. Predictable sequence means in what age what is gonna happen. Okay, so there are some positive side of this maturation theory, and also there are some criticism of this maturation theory.